Smart things, HomePod Mini, Phillips Hue, 2-year bridge, third reality hub, Aqara M2, Aqara G3, and now Aqara M3. Is the Aqara M3 just another hub, or is it a hub that rules them all? Come with me and let's find out. The Aqara M3 is an update to the Aqara M2, and Aqara sent me this unit to be able to give my honest review on this product. I've been using it for just over 2 weeks now, and when I first plugged it into my network, it crashed my entire network. The Thread network is a completely separate network from your own network. In order to take advantage of the Thread network, you need something called a Thread border router. There's a lot of narrative being pushed out there that you no longer need a hub with the advent of Thread and Matter. While that is the case, you do now need a router. And this is the Thread border router, and this is where the Aqara M3 comes into play.
It is also a Matter controller, so in theory it should be able to integrate into other Matter bridges and hubs and be able to control their devices.
There are a lot of devices that currently support the Thread border router, like the HomePod Mini, you have the Nest Hub. So devices on the Thread network need that router to be able to get outside of the Thread network. They can communicate directly with each other, so even if your internet is down, they will still keep working. But first, let's take a look at what's inside of this Aqara M3 box. Inside the box, you have the main unit, you have a mounting bracket, mounting screws, and a USB-C cable. The mounting brackets allow you to attach or mount your Aqara M3 hub on any vertical surface like a wall or a backing board. For me, I just put mine on top of a rack, so I don't have to worry about mounting it. Moving on to the front side of this unit, you have this glass-like material that is where the IR stays. This is where it transmits that IR frequency. On the back side, you have a USB-C port and an Ethernet port. The USB-C port powers up this device. However, the Ethernet port supports something called PoE, which is Power over Ethernet. This allows you to use the single Ethernet cable to provide both data and power. However, you need a PoE switch to use this feature. If the wired option doesn't work for you and you want the wireless option, the Aqara M3 does support 2.4 and 5 GHz wireless band. Moving on to the wireless communication protocols, the Aqara M3, just like the M2 and the G3, supports Zigbee, Bluetooth, infrared, and the brand new thing, Thread. Prior to the release of the Aqara M3, if you had something like the Aqara P2 motion sensor or the Aqara P2 window and door sensor, those devices could now work directly in the Aqara app because none of the existing Aqara hubs support Thread, which means that you cannot interface with any of these Thread devices. But with the Aqara M3, now you can do that. You can now add your P2 sensors directly into the Aqara Home. It works with Apple HomeKit, it worked with Google, worked with Amazon, worked with Home Assistant, so I was happy. Now, let's dive right into the setup. The first thing you do is either use the USB-C or the Ethernet cable to power up the device. And then you can launch the Aqara app and add the M3, which now exists within the Aqara app. If it's not there, make sure you have done the software updates to make sure that this actually gets updated into the app for you. Then you can go through the wizard to get it set up, which is very straightforward. Once that was done, in my case, I already have the G3. I have two of them actually. So it kind of just got added to the existing hubs that I have. Within the Aqara app, the Aqara M3 gets designated as my leader for my Thread devices. The Aqara G3 also supports Matter, but it doesn't support Thread. I'm able to still use a lot of the Aqara devices that I previously had within my Matter platform using the Aqara G3. The only difference now is that the M3 supports Thread, which allows me to be able to take advantage of those Thread devices. Within the Aqara app, you can have child devices. Now, child devices can be attached to a parent. A parent is an hub, so my Aqara M3 hub, my G3, they are all parents. And then all the children devices are things like my sensors, my switches, my door locks, and you can attach them to any of them and then use any of those hubs to get it exposed into something like Matter. Once I set up my Aqara M3, I moved all of my existing devices and made them a child device of my Aqara M3, and then was able to expose it into Matter. The Aqara M3 also supports Apple HomeKit, so if you don't want to use Matter, you can still use the Aqara HomeKit integration to integrate it directly to Apple.
In fact, I recommend using the Apple HomeKit integration over the Matter integration for Apple, as the HomeKit integration gives you more features compared to the Matter. You still get the adaptive lighting. You also get integration of the Aqara's security system into HomeKit using the HomeKit integration. You can decide to run both of them side by side. However, you're going to run into duplicate entries.
Now, while the Aqara M3 is a welcome device for some, especially if you're within the Aqara ecosystem, I personally don't see any benefits to the hub for me. The Aqara G3 cameras, which I have, pretty much do all of the functionalities of the Aqara M2. The only additional feature it brings is the thread. Again, I already have the Apple HomePod Mini, which was already doing that. The problem with the thread network is that it's in its very early phase and they're still trying to figure out a lot of the standards. Like I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, when I plugged my Aqara device into my network for the first time, my entire network crashed. Now that's because of the way the thread border routing works. Now, the thread border routing network is actually very abstract and obscure right now, so you can't really play around or edit or make any configurations. Whatever device that's the first device that you put on your network will create the very first thread border network. You have no control over the name or how it interconnects. All just happens behind the scene. Last year, the Matter Alliance released a standard to be able to allow integration of multiple thread border devices onto the same network. So when mine first joined the network, it probably created another thread network and crashed the whole thing. Unfortunately, there's no way to see what happened behind the scene. And this took down my entire network and required me to rebuild the entire thing from scratch. And that's the problem with when you have too many devices in play that want to act as like the brains of your network. Be careful with integrating this M3 within your network. You might not experience the issue that I experienced because again, I have multiple thread border router on my network. I also have a variety of wireless networks within my network as well. Aqara claims that this device will work with other third-party Matter devices like some Nest products. I couldn't even get it to work with their own product. I have the Aqara P2 sensor that's currently paired up to my Apple HomePod Mini and my Samsung SmartThings app using Matter. So I decided to share it into the Aqara app and it just wouldn't work no matter how I tried it. The only way I could get it to work was to completely remove it from all of my other apps and then start it all over again using the Aqara app and then sharing it from the Aqara app to Apple and Samsung SmartThings.
However, I was able to integrate my Phillips Hue bridge into the Aqara app. This brought in all of my Phillips Hue devices. Again, this is only relevant if you plan to use the Aqara app for your smart home control, which I don't.
Another feature that I was super excited about this was the ability to be able to expose infrared into Matter. So I was hoping I'll be able to do things like expose my humidifier or my fan into my smart home apps like my Apple HomeKit and even Home Assistant. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that to work. After reading very specifically into the details on Aqara's website, it did mention the ability to use something like a climate sensor and pairing it up with an AC in order to be able to get it to expose. It just seems like this is not a solution that will work with just any infrared products. It has to be in a very specific configuration and you have to buy additional accessories to make it to work. And this is not what I was really hoping for out of this product. I personally was expecting the Aqara M3 to be something like the Omi Hub. The Omi Hub is kind of like all-in-one hub. It supports Matter, Zigbee, Bluetooth, pretty much all of these features, and it's not limited to just one brand or product. You can use it with a lot of different manufacturers. Likewise with the Samsung SmartThings or AOTech Hub. Now these hubs are much better solutions because they're not limited to just one product or manufacturer. They allow you to integrate a whole lot of different devices and use them within, even if you wanted to stay within their ecosystem. After testing this product for the past 2 weeks, I've come to the conclusion that the Aqara M3 is just not a hub that rules them all. If you want something that rules them all, you want to be looking at something like the Samsung SmartThings or AOTech Hub or the Omi Pro Hub. I was expecting the Aqara M3 to be something like that or even close, but the Aqara M3 is just limited to just the Aqara products. If you have something like the Samsung SmartThings Hub, you can use all of the Aqara devices anyways because they all use Zigbee or they use Thread, and then you can use that with something like an HomePod or a Nest. So if you're looking for ways to minimize or cut down on the number of hubs you need in your home, the Aqara M3 might unfortunately not be the solution for you. But if you're heavily invested within the Aqara ecosystem and you don't have a thread border router already, then the Aqara M3 might be the guy for you as well. That's just my personal take on the Aqara M3. It might not be the same for you or you or you, but I don't think it's for everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this video, and I hope to catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy, stay safe.